So did you know that common chemicals in our everyday environment can lead to obesity and other diseases?
We're here with Dr. Emily Cooper from the Diabesity Research Foundation, also author of The Metabolic Storm. You've talked about this, I know, over the years, about chemicals in the environment that can have a profound impact on us. So let's break down what those are.
Yeah, well, we always hear about the diabetes and obesity epidemic, and we're told that it's due to eating too much, not enough exercise, and what's left out of the discussion is the fact that common chemicals that we're exposed to every day at home, in our car, and when we get to work can contribute to these diseases by actually hacking our body's hormone system and altering our metabolism. And that's why they're called obesogens and endocrine disruptors. And this is not new information. Actually, more than 80 years ago, scientists discovered that chemicals in the environment can interact with our hormone system. And for the past 60 years, we've been exposed as a society to these chemicals at an alarming rate. So they're really increasing.
So let's break them down. What are they? What do we look for?
Well, the first thing to keep in mind is that if you're going to be susceptible, it's usually because you're genetically vulnerable. So there's family history of obesity or diabetes. And then what the chemicals that we're exposed to are very common. So things like BPA that lines cans of foods and plastic packaging in foods, synthetic carpeting that off-gases, and even the upholstery in your car. So there are numerous chemicals that we can be exposed to that affect our metabolism, and they slow our metabolic rate. They alter our hunger and our fullness cues. And so we'll feel hungrier, not as satisfied after eating, and they force our body to store fat in the deep area around our organs.
This is wild. It's like we're being sabotaged by everything, you know, that's outside of our control. At least we think it's outside of our control.
Right, we do. And we forget, like, children could be at risk. And these kinds of things can affect us actually before we're even born. So that's something to think about. Is a number of studies, increasing number of studies, are showing that maternal exposure to these chemicals during pregnancy can affect the offspring's risk, really, towards obesity and other conditions. And the interesting thing is studies in girls have shown that girls with the highest levels of BPA, again, what's found in the lining of many canned foods, showed the highest body mass index. So that's really interesting, that correlation. And another thing is that it can actually alter your genetic code, so it can affect future generations. So for example, if your great-grandmother was exposed to the mosquito-killing pesticide DDT, then your future offspring could be affected even though you were never exposed and your child was never exposed. So it really has implications not only for our children but for future generations.
So give us some concrete advice, Dr. Cooper, about where we can go to get info on these things in the environment.
Well, clearly we can't avoid all the exposures, but don't heat food in plastic. You know, heat up food, do not heat it in plastic. Avoid plastic containers where you can. Use glass and metal containers for your food storage. And don't use pesticides around your house, weed killers, things like that. If you have a baby, probably not a good idea to let them crawl around on vinyl flooring or synthetic carpeting. Put a cotton blanket down first. And there's something called the Environmental Working Group, which is a great resource. It's a nonprofit that has actually an app that you can put on your phone to test barcodes of items to see if they're safe or not. But I think the important thing is that as a society, we can't have a serious conversation about obesity and diabetes epidemics without discussing the chemical environment that we live in and how that really plays a role.
And it makes me wonder, why aren't these substances banned?
Well, that's why we really do need a strong EPA as citizens to stand up and say we need to be protected, you know, because if no one does, then we're not aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Emily Cooper, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Okay.